cheating gets all the hype, but what are some things that are actually more harmful to relationships in your experience? Presenting a false version of yourself early on for the sake of the partnership. For example, if you are a woman or man who really, truly wants kids, don't date someone who openly and clearly states they don't want kids. I've watched a lot of people express a standard firmly, and then waffle when they meet someone who has a lot of good qualities, but doesn't meet that standard. Later it becomes a source of bitterness, because of an unarticulated hope that the person will change who they are, and an unwillingness to accept that demand was delusional right from the start. Lying and hiding things. I hid some drinking from my ex-wife because she had a dad that died from alcoholism. She hid smoking from me because I had a mother that smoked constantly during pregnancy and after, and most likely caused my respiratory issues. Our reasons for lying were both to protect the other, but both caused relationship problems instead. Lying. Even if it's just a lot of small things, it really does add up. It leaves you thinking, what else would they lie about? Resentment is the #1 killer of relationships. As far as I'm concerned, it festers underneath the skin in a way that other problems don't. By the time resentment is expressed, the damage is already done. It's insidious, because it often starts so slowly. She gradually takes on more and more of the cleaning while he plays video games until one day she wakes up screaming and enraged that his socks are on the floor. He slowly loses his hobbies, his video games, his identity to his wife, until one day he wakes up and rips the TV apart with his bare hands rather than watch the notebook. Before you know it, that grand and consuming devotion you had 5 years ago has been suffocated under the weight of towels on the floor and hours lost to bed, bath, and beyond, and no one noticed until the death throes. Taking your partner for granted, making disagreements a you versus me thing, refusing to compromise, blaming your behavior on your partner, trying to control and manipulate your partner. The mundane, small, ongoing day in day out issues can wear down love. Anything that makes living together a constant argument. For example, money. 1,000 times money. Arguments about money are the most common between couples. It's really difficult to live with someone who makes you feel constricted and guilty about every needed purchase, triple checking you've got the cheap brand toilet papers, or flipping the coin. Someone who spends your shared resources frivolously and wants to go out multiple times a week and buy expensive things you can't afford, and pouts when you disagree. Housework. It is very grinding to live day in day out in a mess, or otherwise being the only one to clean up. Mismatched ideas of timeliness can make shared living heck. Imagine the roommate who always left his dishes to mold and left his dirty socks on living room floor. Now try to imagine after cleaning up his mess multiple times a day, feeling overwhelming desire to kiss that roommate. A bit difficult, no? Flipping the coin. Someone who nags you non-stop about housework and makes faces if you forgot to put your shoes in place after a long tiring day of work can make it super unpleasant to be at home. P.S. I would add lack of trust, lack of communication, emotional distance, taking someone for granted, stopping to take care of yourself physically, mismatched ideas about children, and mismatched sexual desire. All harder to deal with than a one-time cheating episode. Condescension. Cheating is a one-time thing but has some deeper implications, but my suggestion is constant. It makes your self-esteem crap when you start buying their BS. My marriage ended in large part due to that, and I was a confident guy before her, but berated into feeling like I'm worthless. I feel a lot of people are subconsciously trained to do that, especially in arguments. Most likely crappy upbringing, or at least my mother is. Putting your own needs first, always. I had an ex who was very, very insecure. He needed constant reassurance, via sex, and me prioritizing him over everything else in my life. That he was the most important thing in my life, even over myself and my health. I needed space, sometimes, both as a normal human being who needs space sometimes, and also as someone with mental illness and previous trauma. A lot of the time his need for reassurance was deemed more important than my own personal boundaries, and I would end up having to do things I didn't want to, lest I suffer the emotional fallout. My response to previous trauma became worse, because sex became this terrifying obligation, and I thought he would hurt himself if I didn't oblige, or if I left. I would freeze up if he touched me in case he wanted more, and that made him more insecure that I didn't want him. It ended messily. I don't think insecurity inherently is a relationship killer, but you need to know how to handle it, and how to handle it if you freak up about it. Neglect of needs. When one person is communicating their needs and asking for them to be met, and the other person chooses to not try to meet those needs, whilst saying they will or arguing they are meeting that need. It doesn't matter what the need is. It could be a need for affection, a need for time together, or time apart, a need of physical boundaries, etc. A need is the opposite of a deal breaker. If your partner fails to make you a priority at any point, especially if it's over a long period of time, and not meet your needs, it's a catalyst for other relationship killers like resentment, loss of trust, and checking out of the relationship. Not saying please and thank you. If my wife cooks dinner, I tell her thank you. If she does laundry, I tell her thank you. If I complete a house project, she says thank you. It's simple, and if not done could cause many issues. People need to feel appreciated. If they feel appreciated, then their frame of mind is better and everything in general is better. You're together because you're codependent and neither of you wants to be single. There's no chemistry, you have nothing in common, and you aren't together for any reason other than you need to get your dong or pee wet or you're afraid of being alone. Sure, you're in a relationship, but you just exist together. There's nothing beyond that. Oh, dear God, no, they're codependent. Run. Being selfish. I am not saying that you can't have a me day sometimes. The problem comes when you are constantly putting yourself first instead of your partner, not just with actions, but with the thought of, well, what am I getting? Give love freely and truthfully, not because you are expecting something in return. If you don't respect each other anymore, people can fall in and out of love, but if you lose respect for someone, it's very hard to get that back. Also, I think it can very easily lead to cheating. I love my husband, but I also respect the heck out of him and the hard work he does for us, and I know that he has a mutual respect and love for me. What do you mean fall in and out of love? Lack of communication. 95% of the crap in our relationships could be fixed if people just took the time to clearly convey how they're feeling. Nonsense. Frick the lawyer, delete the gym, hit up Facebook or something like that. It's the only way to be sure. Common not being on the same page regarding finances, spending, saving, budgeting. A common not sharing an equal division or effort towards domestic chores in households where both partners work and or have young kids. Or the awful mixture where they have young kids, both work, and all the chores are still one person's responsibility. When you receive the silent treatment, and it goes on and on, you're treated with disdain, as if you don't exist, and dialogue to make things better is out of the question because your partner won't allow it. All this, and you're sometimes not even sure what your SO is upset about because they won't talk. Oh God, the silent treatment. After a while, I didn't even care anymore. I wasn't being punished by him being silent. I started to feel lucky that I didn't have to hear his horse shit, and that was an unhealthy behavior on my part. Someone mentioned codependency in the way that you just don't want to be alone, but in my experience codependency can be a much more vicious and insidious thing. You become so wrapped up in someone that you started to push away friends and family. This person becomes your whole world. They are the one and only member of your support network. They are everything to you. And that's when issues arise. If you have a problem, you have no one to talk to. If you do talk to someone else, the other person get annoyed. You find comfort in someone else. You start to think you don't want to be with them anymore, but you can't stand the thought of the being with someone else. You start to resent them, but you love them so much. You both get paranoid, jealous, in constant fear that something or someone will take them away from you. But it's so tiring to feel like that. You just want love and security. You end up being in a war of juxtapositions. You don't want them around, but you can't bear to be apart. You want to take care of them, but how dare they expect that from you? It's like killing with kindness. Too much love. But it's not real love, it's obsession. It's awful and so hard to get out of. Sorry, I think I needed to get that out. Related to cheating, but I think lack of trust. It really fricks the relationship when you can't trust the other person. Another would be lack of communication. Suffocating ambition. It is poison. Pure and simple. You do not want to wake up next to that person who thinks once a day, if it wasn't for them I could have done X. Let them do X. Encourage them. If they fail, so be it. If they are successful, great. When one stops putting in any effort into the relationship, they stop eating healthy, get lazy, they get complacent with work and lose their drive. There is getting comfortable in the relationship, and there is completely giving up with the assumption that someone loves you no matter what. 1. Domestic abuse. I am a well-educated, well-employed, socially active person. I thought I would recognize the signs, was better than someone who ended up in those situations, until it happened to me. While I am beyond relieved to have my life back now, thank you restraining order, it has been a painstaking recovery that took years. 2. A buddy of mine refuses to admit how he affected the demise of his marriage. It's impossible for me to have all the specifics on this, but it is safe to say this was due to a major communication breakdown. He is otherwise a really cool guy, great colleague, reliable person. He loved her, loved being married and never cheated, but was adamant that he either did not want kids at all, or at most just one. I think the wife thought that after the first he would change his mind and want more. He didn't. Right after the kid was born he came home one day and announced he had a vasectomy. No notice, just did it. I am certain there are far more issues, on both sides, than just that one. But when you are married, family planning is a huge part of it. You can't enforce your wants on another person or make them magically change their mind about it. Needless to say, it ended a little while after that. I think not coming to a more concrete agreement on how many kids they could have before getting married was a major misstep. I've never even gotten to engagement, but the worry that an SO and I might have completely different familial plans can frick with an otherwise wonderful relationship. Ignoring her for days at a time. Constant lies. When she tries to escape from the attic. Being constantly standoffish. Waiting until you're fed up and angry about something before you tell your partner that something is bothering you. My ex-wife and last GF did this, and it was one of the major factors in the end of both relationships. Our marriage counselor specifically talked about this, but I think it was too late at that point. One time I was able to discuss it with the GF and talk her down off the ledge. I told her she needed to bring it up before she got angry about it, but her response was she wanted to choose her battles and didn't want to become a nag. While that's a valid point, she was only looking at it as two extremes and wasn't able to find a middle ground. Like, hey babe, I feel that you're talking down to me a little bit right now, before it becomes an issue, so I can check myself and pay attention to how I'm talking to her and nip it in the bud. Once I become aware of my behavior, I can actively work to avoid that. If I don't know I'm doing something that bothers her, then I'm probably going to keep doing it. Then when she is finally fed up enough, it's a major blow up, and usually over something stupid that could have been resolved amicably had there been communication over it. Lying. I was in a relationship for a long time with a compulsive liar. He lied about everything, from pretty big things to the smallest of things. Even though we've been broken up for almost 2 years, I still have severe trust issues and problems believing what people tell me. I always feel like I'm being lied to. Grudge. If you decide to stay together after an argument or a committed mistake, then it belongs to the past, not the present and future. It implies forgiveness, and a hold never be mentioned again in another argument, because there will be others. Arguments should be about an issue at end, not about digging old grudges. To add to this, clean the hair out of your bathroom drains, otherwise a Japanese girl will crawl out and scare you to death. Uneven responsibility did it for me. I was very in love with my husband for many years, but being the only one growing up into a functioning adult, the only one paying bills, the one always having to explain why we can't spend all our money on a vacation or why we need to stop smoking quite so much pot and actually clean our house, it takes its toll. Eventually I just felt like a one-leg table, holding up every single adult responsibility while he just skated through being taken care of. Enter resentment. 9 years later I realized I just really hated him. I wasn't even the same fun person I used to be, because I was completely wasted away with stress and constant arguing about literally everything. Ever mourning how I didn't love him because I needed to go to work when he wanted me to call in fake sick to work. I filed for divorce 2 weeks ago. Some people just don't grow up, and he wanted me to be his mom, not his wife. I ended my last relationship after finally realizing that my boyfriend did not value my opinion or really even believe that I knew what I was talking about. It took me so long to realize it since it was just stupid little things. Not believing me when I said he should salt the pasta water, shooting down my theories about the shows we were watching, really mundane stuff. But when it happens all the time, it gets really hurtful. An inability to manage money. If one partner can't control their spending, runs up debts, spends impulsively, won't save for joint goals, this spells doom for the relationship. I've seen a lot of breakups over that. Emotional manipulation. I had an ex who would give me the silent treatment whenever I did something he didn't like. He wouldn't start talking to me again until I apologized, which would sometimes last multiple days. It got to the point where even if logically I hadn't done anything wrong, I would take the blame for whatever and apologize for being so horrible just so he would speak to me again. Eventually your mindset changes and it becomes the norm, and maybe you are be hurtful and should be more careful about what you say and do. It's toxic. When respect for each other erodes and annoyance takes its place. When you lose interest in your partner, when you avoid each other. Communication breakdown is death to relationships. Lack of empathy is another big one. Goes both ways, refusing to see your own role in the negativity and placing the blame on them. Nagging is never good either. I feel cheating in a long-term relationship is often merely a symptom of the already present issues that gets most of the attention. I've been happily married to my husband for almost 13 years and we have had our share of challenges and hard times. But we have always tried our best to not blame each other for all the crap and stress life throws at us. We remember we are on the same team. We both always try to make each other's day a little easier. Simply asking if he'd like anything at the store. Setting out plate, napkins, cups, etc. When I know he will be coming home late. Just taking out the trash or putting the dishes away without bitching about how unfair it is that I do it so often. He will text me on his way home Tozy if I need him to stop anywhere. I will cook dinner if he's had a long day, and clean up. He will make my appointments for me because I hate calling offices, and send me reminders so I don't forget. All these little things show you care and are making an effort. Both humans need to feel accepted and appreciated. Hostility never solves anything, and only increases the rate your relationship will break down. And let each other have some freaking space. Don't demand constant communication. Don't get mad if they don't return your text immediately. Just aim to create peace and allow love to bloom. Don't let your home and mind become hostile. When you beg on your hands and knees for help, but they don't. It really hurts when you work hard for someone and you are there for them when they need you, but as soon as you need help they aren't there. Dating someone who grew up with significantly more or less money than you did, or at least going into the relationship expecting it to be just like any normal relationship. It's not, and it can result in problems down the road if you don't work out those issues early on. I grew up poor white trash and she grew up in an educated upper middle class family. The first year or two we ignored those differences, but that just made problems. Money was an ever-present fear for me. It still is. She has never missed a single payment or had a car declined due to a legitimate lack of funds. How you view the world is going to depend a great deal on how much money your family had while you were growing up. It's not an easy truth to deal with, but it's just the way life works. Even the way your families treat your partner is going to become an issue. Her father's wife bet him $50 I had never had fondue before. She lost of course because he had fondue with us 2 years ago, but still, kind of a cunty thing to do. My mother warned me that dating someone who grew up with money was dangerous and would probably result in divorce. Further cuntiness. You just have to talk about the issue and make sure that you're open with how each other feels about finances. Even if you both make the same amount of money, now how you view every dollar and what should be done with it can cause problems. Mutual respect. My ex-GF used to belittle me and undermine my opinions, etc. It made me hate her and turned me into a shell. Horrible. Horrible relationship. 0/10 would not recommend. Lack of communication. Don't assume anything about your partner. Ask them. Nothing more frustrating than telling your partner what you want for your birthday and then them doing their own thing because frick you. Then they yell at you because you don't like their gift. I told you what I wanted well in advance and you didn't get it. Poor communication is the heart of all relationship problems, emo. It's at the heart of cheating, lying, emotional distance, abuse, manipulation, meanness, all of it. So, in my books, communicating poorly with someone is the worst thing you can do. We can't be good at it all the time, but it's worth constantly striving for. To communicate well is so hard, I know. I grew up in an emotionally abusive household where communication was just awful. I struggle to be honest with my sister about a lot of things, and I'm extremely close with her, but that's why I know communication is everything. Communicate well. It won't always save a bad relationship, but it always leads to great ones. People change over time, and as both of you grow, sometimes you realize you're growing further apart than together. He might want to travel to the Bahamas and take a cruise, and all you wanna do is raise a large family and become the grandma that holds everyone together. It happens. It just happens. Taking the other person for granted, assuming that they will always be there and failing to acknowledge all that they do, even the seemingly small stuff. Lack of intimacy. I'm not talking sex. I'm talking connecting with someone on a deeper level and really making it a point to know them. Two things that are often disregarded, but can cost you more than you know. Cheating and lying about it. People make mistakes. If you're honest, you have a chance of working past them. Betraying someone's trust and never owning up to it will eat away at the relationship. Either you'll feel unrepentant and do it again and again until you get discovered and truly frick things up, or the guilt will gnaw at you and bring resentment and anger you can't express. Cheating can be forgiven. Dishonesty is a death sentence for a relationship. Friends who automatically undermine or dismiss the relationship when you hit a rough patch. Your BFGF made a mistake, frick that. You need to break up, get even. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.